The people, the headlines, the issues impacting you, all on This Week in Cincinnati on 9 on Your Side.
Welcome back. Fighting homelessness among young adults is getting a big boost in Hamilton County. It is the result of nearly $4 million in federal funding to develop a new program to give those people another chance at building their lives. The Keys to a Future Without Youth Homelessness plan involves a wide range of groups, from Bethany House to the Salvation Army. Its goal is to reduce the number of young homeless people in half by 2020. The plan is also designed to increase the number of young people who have permanent housing after leaving a shelter by 80% by 2020. With us now to talk more about the key plan and how it works is Bonita Campbell, the Vice President of Homeless Youth Services with Lighthouse Youth and Family Services. We want to thank you for being here.
Thank you.
If you have the ability right now to speak to a lot of people, how would you describe the homeless youth problem in the tri-state area and really across the country?
I would say that it is a problem that people think is hidden, and it's not. I think homeless youth are everywhere, and they're amongst the population more than we think. There are a lot of homeless young adults, ages 18 to 24, and many of them, actually there's about 1 in 10 young people 18 to ages 24 will be homeless at some point in time in their lives.
That's stunning.
And we actually call a number of those young people couch surfing. So they haven't actually identified themselves as totally, literally homeless, but they're moving around and they're sleeping on their cousin's couch, their friend's couch, and they're just moving about, but they're not stable. And that 18 to 24-year-old time period is critical. People are still developing, they're still figuring out who they are. And so if I'm not stable to really do that, it's a critical time period. And that's the time when we really need to stabilize those young people to help them figure out the next trajectory of their lives.
So you want to cut their numbers in half.
Absolutely.
How do you want to do that? How are you going to do that?
We're going to do that in Cincinnati, as you mentioned, with a number of key partners in this particular project. You mentioned Bethany House and Salvation Army. It's also the Interfaith Hospitality Network and the YWCA. Those 4 organizations make up the Family Housing Partnership in Cincinnati. Also Lighthouse Youth and Family Services, and we have another team member, the Children's Law Center. We are so excited to have them as a part of this work. They're not traditionally in the homeless network per se, but they are bringing a really, really live perspective to this in terms of helping these young people look at what their legal issues are and looking at those barriers and really attacking those and helping them get out of those legal situations so that they can move forward. If we can mitigate those circumstances now while they're young and give them a fresh start, that is critical to also giving them another hope, another glimpse at, okay, I can move forward and I can get this taken care of and not have to look at those issues anymore.
So it sounds as if there's going to be some kind of social work component of the program.
Absolutely. Each young person has a case manager that will follow them throughout their time in working within this system. What young people told us, we had young people at the table building this entire system from the very outset.
So young people who have been homeless.
Young people who have lived experience. That was critical because those young people told us, here's what you need to do to help us. And so those young people said, if we don't want to tell our story one time, we don't want to have people over and over again coming to us asking us what happened, how did you get in this situation? So they'll have a case manager that follows them throughout their time and throughout working with them. And they can help, they helped us design what happens to us while we're in this system. How do we interact with people? What are the services that we need to get us back on our feet, to help us to be successful? Every time we came up with a policy, a screening tool, any type of process, a young person had to be at the table and said, yes, no, this will work, this won't work, and how do you want to engage in this process? And that has been the most critical component that we've had, and the most refreshing component, to have a young person say, this is what will work for us.
Outside of not wanting to retell their story over and over and over again, what were a couple of the other things that rose to the top in terms of what they felt they needed?
Listen. Listen to us. This is what helped, this is what didn't help. This is what we wish we had. that we didn't have. There weren't services in this particular area that we really needed. There weren't expertise in this area. Legal was one of them. They wanted legal services. They wanted someone who could help us in this particular circumstance. So those were the types of things that we made sure we had in this particular plan available for those young people.
Do you think that this key plan could become a template for other cities?
That's our hope.
Really?
We have from the very beginning, we have a number of calls with other providers across the country, and we share back and forth about these are the things that are working, these are the things that our young people have told us, these are the things that work in our community. Certainly there are other areas that are more rural as opposed to Cincinnati, and so some things won't work in other communities, but we also listen to other communities to say, hey, that might work in Cincinnati. So we hope that we have other things in our community that people can use as well.
In the end, it sounds as if you're saying, yes, you might have had a rough start, but you can move forward.
Absolutely. We know that these young people are resilient. They have been resilient thus far. We know that this is a critical time for their development to figure out what happened along the way. Trauma is significant in these young people's lives, either in their family life or things that they have experienced in their own lives. And so we have to figure out what those things were and help them to figure that out and to become healthy. And they can be healthy. And we're going to help them along that way to find success in their lives.
All right, on that note, Bonita, thank you for joining us, and we'll continue to follow the program.
Thank you.
This Week in Cincinnati, we'll be right back.
The people, the headlines, the issues impacting you, all on This Week in Cincinnati on 9 on Your Side.